Hello everyone, today we are doing Module 3, Lesson 4. What I want you to be able to do by the end of this lesson is count by units of 6 to multiply and divide using number bonds to decompose. So let's break that down. Okay, so we're going to skip that one. We're going to go to the next fluency practice. So one thing you're going to need to remember how to do for today's lesson is making 10. A super easy thing that you guys learned in first grade, in second grade, but it's going to be super important to what we're learning today. So on your whiteboard, I want you filling in the blanks for making 10. When I ask you to make 10, let's start with the number. Okay, if I gave you the number 3, what number would you fill in the blank to make 10? 7. What if I gave you 5? What number would you fill in the blank to make 10? 5. What if I gave you a 4? What number would you fill in the blank to make 10? 6. What about a 2? 8. What about 9? What number would you fill in the blank to make 10? 1. Okay, so it's super important for today's lesson for us to remember how to make 10. Okay, what if I gave you the number? So we're going to do number bonds next. So if I gave you the number, so 10 would be what we're trying to get to. Okay, and in one of the circles, we're going to do 6. What would go in the other part of the number bond? 4. Let's do another number bond. Okay, for this part, I'll give you, 1. What would go in the other part of the number bond? 9. Okay, so this is just a review of making 10 because you'll need it to help you with today's lesson. Very good job practicing that making 10. Go ahead and erase your whiteboards. Okay, so we're going to do the application problem together. So it says, Marshall put 6 pictures on each of the 6 pages in his photo album. How many pictures does he put in the photo album in all? Let's break that down. Okay, so Marshall puts 6 pictures on each of the 6 pages in his photo album. And they're asking us, how many pictures does he put in the photo album in all? Okay, so let's break that down. Let's go ahead and draw. So go ahead and draw along with me. We're going to draw these dots to represent one page in his photo album. So on one page, he put 6 pictures. So there's 6 pictures on each page. So here's another 6. Another 6. Another 6. So it's essentially like writing a shortened version of our array. Okay, but for the last dot, I want you to do a dot that is not filled in, and we're going to talk about why. Okay, so there's 6 pictures on each page. So for each of these dots, there's 6 pictures. Okay, so we have 6 pages with 6 pictures on each. We need to solve for that. But we're pretty good with our 5s. Okay, so let's think about if we have 5 6s here. Okay, our multiplication problem would be 6 times 5, and we just talked about how we don't feel super comfortable with our 6s, but I know we feel comfortable with our 5s. Okay, so we could count by 6 5 times, or we could count by 5 6 times. Okay, that's easier to do than our 6s. So let's go ahead and skip count by our 5 6 times. Here we go. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. Okay, so 6 times 5 is 30. But we're not trying to solve for 6 times 5. We're trying to solve for 6 times 6. What could I do with my 30, the answer that I got, to find 6 times 6? So I did 6 times 5. What if I added one more 6? By doing 30 plus 6, which is 36. So I solved for 6 times 6 by breaking down or decomposing the problem into 6 times 5, and then I just added one more 6. So we had 6 6s and broke it into 5 6s plus 1 6. Okay, that just made the problem easier to do, just because I know we feel more comfortable with our 5s than we do our 6s. Okay, let's move on. Okay, so for the next part of our concept development, we're going to talk about kind of a trick we can use when we skip count by 6s. Okay, so we're going to go back to what we were talking about at the beginning with our making 10 strategy, and it's going to help us better understand how to skip count by 6s. Okay, so an important thing to remember is when we're skip counting, we're just adding on that number each time. So for example, if I ask you to start skip counting by 6s, you would start with 6, obviously, and then how would you get to the next number? What would you do? You would add 6. Okay, and I know 6 plus 6 is 12. That one's pretty easy. Okay, but as the numbers get bigger, are they as easy? No, they're not. So that's when we can make 10. So let me show you what I mean here with 6 plus 6 equals 12. Okay, now that one, like I said, is pretty easy. We can do it off the top of our head, but we can also break down one of the numbers to have made it easier for us, because we know when we make 10, a number's easier to add to 10 than it is any other number. So let's say I broke down 6. I'm going to break 6 into 4 and 2. Okay, now let's look. So we broke down 6, so let's cross it off so we don't even think it's there. Between 6, 4, and 2, can we add 2 of those numbers together to make 10? Yes, we can. We can do 6 and 4. So now our problem becomes 10, and then we still have our 2 over here. 10 plus 2, which equals 12. That was the same answer we got for 6 plus 6, but it's easier to add a number to 10. Okay, now that one was pretty easy because we already knew what 6 plus 6 was. Okay, but let's move on to the next part of our skip count. Okay, So we're going to move on from 12. Now we're going to take 12 plus 6. Okay, 12 plus 6. Make sure you're writing along with me on your number line, or on your whiteboard. You can erase after we do each one of these. So I'm going to continue writing, but you don't have to keep writing each one of these out. Just do them one at a time. So we have 12 plus 6. Okay, could I break down one of these numbers to make 10? I could break down 12 into 8 and 4, because I know that 6 and 4 make 10. Okay, so then my problem would become, so let's see, let's cross off 12 because we just broke that down. My problem would become 8, and then remember that 6 and 4 becomes a 10. What is 8 plus 10? It's an easy problem to do. That's 18. So 12 plus 6 is 18. So that's the next number in our skip count. So we have 6, 12, 18. Okay. So let's move on to our next one here. So now we're going to start with 18 and add another 6. So we have 18 plus 6. Okay. Is there an opportunity here to break this down into a number to make 10? Now remember, make 10. That doesn't always mean the number 10. It could also just mean make a 10, which means a number ending in 0. Okay, so is there an opportunity between 18 and 6? Could we break one of these numbers down and then add it to another number to get it to a number that ends in 0? Look at how close 18 is to a number that ends in 0. What would we need to add to 18 to make it an easier number? Okay, let me show you. So we're going to break down 6 into 2 and 4. Okay, so we're going to cross off the 6. Then we're going to add 18 and 2. What would that be? 20. Okay, 18 is super close to 20, which is a 10. It's not the number 10, but it is a 10 because it ends in a 0, so it's easier to add. Okay, and then we have our 4 left over to add. So we have 20 plus 4, which equals 24. So 18 plus 6 is 24, and that's the next number in our skip count. Okay, let's do another one. So now we're going to start with 24 and add 6. Okay, so let's break this down. We're going to break down 24. So sometimes, as you guys can see, sometimes we break down the 6. Other times we break down the 2-digit number. Okay, so that's why it's important to look for which number could you add to the other to make it a number that ends in 0. So that's kind of the tricky part, is knowing which number to break down. So let's break down 24 into 20 and 4. Now why did I do that? We broke down 24. Why did I break it into 20 and 4? 20 is an easy number. But what about the 6 and 4 here? Did they become an easy number too? Yes, they do. So now our problem becomes 20 plus 10. That's much easier to do than 24 plus 6. And I know that 20 plus 10 is 30. So the next number in our 6 skip count is 30. Okay, let's do one more. So now we're going to start with 30 and add 6. Okay, but wait a second, do we need to break down either of the numbers for this problem? No, because we're already adding to a 10. 30 is a 10 because it ends in 0. So 30 plus 6 is 36. So that's the next number in our skip count. Okay, so really guys, I don't want this. I know this is kind of tricky. I know it's a little confusing, but once you get the hang of making 10 and knowing which numbers to make 10, it'll be much easier. But the whole point of this making 10 strategy is just to help you better understand and learn your skip count. Okay, so we're going to move on here to our problem set. We're actually going to skip number 1 on our problem set. And we're going to go straight to number 2, because these are the problems that are the most similar to what you're going to be doing on your practice. Okay, but I'm going to go ahead and stop this video. So go back and check Seesaw, and there will be a part 2 with me going over your problem set. Very good job following along today, guys.